the finance committee, Alex, are a little bit late. Can I get, Jimmy? Oh. Thank you, Aaron, for the, for the mic and for the conversation. Can we get an approval of the agenda?
Sure.
All right. Do we need to do a roll call vote or anything for finance committee, or just all in favor? All right. All in favor? Great. Treasurer's report. The reconciled year-end budget for the fourth quarter, we ended much where we expected to be in October when we modified the budget. Note might be salaries and wages was a little bit higher than expected because of having food retirement so late. Just blame it on me.
It was, we went a full, our grant funds ran out, and we added staff, added the office, and so we went full care. Retirement might have a little. Yeah, you go.
But well covered by not expending expenses and other issues. The other change, that other variance that you might notice, the utilities and reimbursements within the lease, both the income and the expenses were different, and that's simply because that is a cost that is just a pass through. So the revenue comes in because we get a bill, we expense it to MWS, and then they reimburse us for it. So no true in and out of our bank accounts for that. You might notice our marketing and advertising, we've under expended that by roughly 30,000. It's just a matter of timing in terms of how long it took us to find a consultant and get things in process. We were able to kickstart some projects for swag and video production. So those expenses are reflected in the year-end 2020. Fortunately, we were also under in legal services. We just didn't have the need that we were anticipating that we might have, and had no need for it. We discussed in October this $75,000 transfer to the distribution and development checking account. So that's all within MRC bank accounts, but that is money that's being set aside for future development needs, should we need it. And then we were also able to put almost $160,000 back to our wealth management, which was good.
Yeah, we initially planned on 75, so.
Any questions on the year-end budget?
It was a fine year.
It was a great year. First year in a long time where we didn't intend to use any reserves, and we didn't. The FY25 budget, very similar to last year in terms of revenues. The difference you might see, we increased the expected utilities line because they expected there'll be more equipment turned on. It's truly just gas. The grant funds for staffing, we do not have, those grant funds anymore, so that will not be a revenue that's going to be. So roughly flat in terms of revenue for FY 25. For expenses, we have a full year, entirely of, having an administrative assistant, so our administration costs have increased. We're doing more of our, work in-house, so our financial services costs have increased. Then the, legal services, we have suggested, increasing those over our actual expenses. Strictly because we expect that as we do add more member services, that there may be, legal expenses involved in fleshing out either contracts or what we can offer. The contingency, of course, we didn't use it last year, but it's still good practice to have this back to right. So it's different. And then payment to the wealth management account, we are anticipating $100,000 this year. That we can adjust in October based on how things are going. And then we're not anticipating transferring any additional funding to the distribution development account, but again, in October, we just.
Now, we add, there is a new line item on there for $5,000 for scholarships, convention, or grants, whatever we decide. We can talk further about it if this gets a meeting. And this is interest from distribution development and the operating account. We have cash flow. And I thought it was something with members and then award it at the meeting. It would be a nice fit. So it's something to talk about, but that line item's on there. I want to sit down and have a conversation with MWS to see if they'll match it. So it's something we put in the budget. We're still making our payments to wealth management, but we're still earning reasonable interest on a couple of these accounts. I don't see distribution development account going anywhere. In the operating account. And utilities should now mirror up now that we know that we're going to continue paying them. We're going to pay them as the month they come in, so we should have a better idea on those. But that's an exciting line item that I want to add. That's great, actually. I love it. Can I ask a question about the utilities number? I'm not appreciating it by about $40,000. It's just for turning it on. It's not necessarily a reflection on an increase in rates that we're having to pay. It's totally an estimate, but the best guess we bring waste in at the end of Q1, in Q2, but probably end of Q2, Q3, you'll see our turn on here and there as we ramp up the pilot that's coming in and that such things. So you're gonna have staff there. So I just can't think, it is an estimate, but yeah, turn this equipment on, bills are gonna go up.
It wasn't thought back in the day that facility itself produced sufficient energy to run itself. And then that expense could potentially go away. Is that a pipe dream or is that something?
That's a conversation we're gonna have in 2026.
Okay. It's fun. Thank you.
Okay,
Is there something built in for this paying can that fall under
that's within administration
administration?
and part of the. Just a note typically we allow a little bit more, flexibility within the administration line. It's tighter than usual. So in October, we have to take a look at it. Okay.
So I believe we'll vote on the budget report. Correct. Recommended vote.
Any further questions on the proposed 2025 budget?
I don't think we recommend.
Second that. All in favor? Okay. December payables. Somehow I have dropped my spreadsheet of my payables. Thank you, Mike.
Hold on a chair.
So the December payables looks very high at, $320,000. However, just want to point out that $158,000, that is the wealth management, reimbursement. And $75,000 of that is the transfer over to our distribution, which we had to do all in December in order to keep it in the proper fiscal year for them. Also, within that is the $15,000 for the marketing projects that we started, $5,000 for the video, $10,000 for the swag and other marketing merchandise. And then we have the audit, which was, we have caught up on the audit as was an $18,000 expense. And then just, health insurance, workers' comp, kind of year-end, beginning of the year expenses. Any questions on the payments? Okay. The fourth quarter wealth management fund performance. Our 1 year performance as of 12/31/2025 was 4.03%. The benchmark that was set was 1.44%. And so we have well exceeded that. You can see the breakdown between our bonds and our cash. The performance, and then the breakdown as far as where the bonds are. I think our proposal is in the first quarter of this year. Sorry, moving ahead pretty quickly in the first quarter, but that we would start working on an investment strategy that would adopt, that we could then really ladder out our bonds and also an RFP out for our wealth management.
So we have these funds, which I hope you noticed the names not on there. So, and then remember, we have contingency that we're sitting on $1 million from collecting interest in cash from the sale. That was the waste being paid for that took place in closing that every year. So sitting on that cash. And then we'll be asking this meeting, the 158,000. What I think is gonna happen, or approval, is the 158,000, trying to keep those funds separate, so I have that greater stock here. We'll ask permission to purchase a short-term CD again during Q1. We'll come up with a financial strategy, and then we'll look at an RFP or something, so that we get the funds back together and invest it back. Is what I kind of, Ellen and I are gonna work on it and thinking. So hopefully at the Q2 meeting, we'll be able to send things to the board, and then hopefully say, you know, volume stock and just take that on 58 cents. Short-term, just like we did the previous 50 that we did last year. It's not talking about what to do with fun.
Any questions on the wealth management fund performance, or we just discussed?
Just a reminder, please, are we limited as to the way in which we can invest those monies? Statutory. If it's typical, I'm guessing we have to invest in.
George.
George?
Did you hear that question?
Okay, could you repeat the question? It's a little muffled.
Yeah.
I think you need to turn your mic on.
Thanks. The question, George, was, are we statutorily limited by the banks by which we can invest that money that we've got?
Not that I am aware. I know that in the past, the board has passed an investment policy which reflects, you know, typical restrictions on municipalities. It was always a little fuzzy in my recollection, whether as a nonprofit, to the extent there are restrictions on municipal finance, whether they also applied to the MRC, but the MRC always just had an investment policy that, you know, assumed that there would be such restrictions. So I think part of the strategic effort that would happen in 2025 would be to come up with an investment policy to make clear whether there are any restrictions on, or even if the board wants to take out voluntary restrictions consistent with what might be applicable to municipalities, and they put that in the policy. So it's a long answer to a short question, but I think there was always a little question about it, and the answer is the board can just decide to adopt restrictions in its policies that make the boundaries clear.
My concern is opportunity costs. And I hope one of the things we're looking at is ensuring we have a highly diversified portfolio that is partially committed to the stock market, as well as the bond market, and everything else that goes along to increase our rate of return. I do think
You know, you may recall a few years ago that the MRC board had a ban on investing in equities, and then at one point, one of the banks that was management, or one of the investment advisors, suggested a modest investment in equities, and that didn't last very long because then the situation of the MRC changed, and they wanted more liquidity than that investment would allow, so they didn't pursue it for very long. But again, it's going to come down to the you know, the balance of return and risk, and the policy that you put forth, or the next policy, ought to reflect where the board stands on that.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, George.
Else on the wealth management fund? George, are you doing the update on the asset management report?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's in the packet. The idea was always that the funds that the joint venture had that were managed by the MRC ought to have a separate look from the general finances of the MRC. It used to be simple. It got complicated when there were assets in receivership, even more complicated when the MRC became the sole owner of MWS LLC. And since the sale of membership interest and the MRC is no longer the manager of the LLC, it's getting simple again because the MRC's role tends to be management oversight rather than direct responsibility for collections and payments and maintenance activities, et cetera. Those are being done by MWS and has the advantage of simplifying the MRC's finances. So I think that's reflected in the management letter. The other thing that's reflected is we finally have a final 2023 audit, and there were some adjustments that had to be made to make the internal financials in the asset management letter consistent with the results of the 2023 audit. I've done that and marked it in the notes. So we're back current and where we need to be until we get the 2024 audit report, which may be a little while. But basically, the assets at this point are the cash, the investments, and then the valuations of the land, the contingent fee receivable from under the purchase agreement, and then the equity in MWS LLC. Those last two items are not being updated quarter to quarter pending audit review. That's what we did last year, and I think it makes sense at this point to do this going forward as well. And rather than overcomplicate an analysis which is just going to change and is not necessarily meaningful in understanding the MRC's position. So I think the statements are pretty straightforward. The individual funds are listed. I think Bell had already discussed the transfers of $75,000 and $160,000. I will note the $160,000 was an estimate, so there's a little bit of a reconciliation, about 1% of that shown on the balance sheet as a due to item. But other than that, we're consistent with the audit and the accountant and the auditor's practices going forward for now. For the record, the total assets of the MRC are about $9.1967 million, which is a slight increase from last quarter. So if there are questions on what's in the letter or anything else I can respond to, I'm happy to do that at this time. And if not, then the board would vote to accept the letter.
Do we need to vote to recommend the acceptance or?
Second, please.
All those in favor? And our next meeting is April 23rd. Is that also here? Or is that?
Yeah, so Camden has been gracious enough to agree to host our meetings if everybody's okay with that. Location, nice location. We'll figure by the last meeting, we should have all the audio. That's all figured out perfectly.
Okay. So we are adjourned.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the January 22nd board meeting of the MRC board. We're going to go ahead and call to order at 10:05, and our first order of business is going to be approval of the agenda. Anybody have any changes to the agenda tonight?
Yes. Steve wrote down the stream attack. He's asking some. That's fine. Good, take care. Yes, under new business got cut off. New business should be made about the
14 other business.
other business. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They should be before the executive session. So that's their regular update. So
Okay, after public comment before executive session? Or,
I would put them, right after here around May 9th. I would put them right after that.
any other changes? Good. We'll rock and roll. First thing we'll do is, consider the minutes of the annual meeting, December 11th, 2024.
We approve those minutes. I'll second.
Second.
That was Steve East. Steve Lewis.
Needs the Zoom link.
Yeah. But I can try to do it from my phone.
Because we have, the meeting minutes are good, and we have a motion in a second. Excuse me, all in favor of approving those minutes? Excellent. Yeah, and now we get to welcome new board members. Board member Rebecca, who prefers to be called Becky. And I called her yesterday and made sure she was coming, so we're very happy to see her here. Thanks again. That's a good thing. And Becky's coming to us from the town of China. And it seems like every time I hear about China, I'm hearing good things about the transfer station. So very happy to have your expertise, experience here on board. So I want to review our elected terms real quick. We did have quite an election this year. We covered it quickly at the annual meeting. I want to go over again. We have 3 people on the board with 3 elected to 3-year terms. That's myself, Aaron, and Paula are all 3-year terms. Then we have 2 people serving 2-year terms, the balance of previous terms. Steve Lewis and Becky are both doing 2 years, and then Bell is filling a remainder of another term, which is 1 year left. So quite a staggered list there, but got to figure it out. So the next thing we need to do is, because it's a new year, we need to discuss the election of officers to the board. I will open up the floor to nominations for positions of president, VP, treasurer, and clerk.
I move that, we continue as it is, which is Aaron as president, Aaron VP. Oh, sorry. Usually people think it pretty well, but, I move that we keep the board as it is, which, the officers as it is, which is Aaron as president, Aaron as VP, Bell treasurer, and Mike as clerk.
Second. Do you have any other nominations? So we have a motion and a second, Aaron as president, Aaron as vice president, Bell as treasurer, and Mike as clerk. All in favor?
Congratulations.
Oh, wait. Have to actually see something.
I think it's fine. I think
I'm good.
no one.
You're on.
I think it's pretty clear in that no further nomination. I think it's fine.
All right. So do I still need to get with the board elect? Okay, it's good. Just be sure to be on it. Perfect. Thank you for that. Now we need to talk about committee assignments. So instead of going through and doing elections to committees, we carry over what? Oh, okay, we carried over the committee assignments from before, with any new people, which would be that he's filling the spot, filling the spot of the person that should replace. So, we have on the finance committee, Bob Butler, Karen Bissell, Karen Hoovery, Del Ryder, and Tony Smith. On the communications committee, We have Melissa Doan, Karen Sell, Steve Lewis, Donald Ryder, and Paul Scott. Police flow committee is Bob Butler, Melissa Doan, Becky Patrick, Paul Scott, and Tony Smith. So, those assignments do allow for some operational continuity because people are used to being on committees, you know what works, did that before. But we do have some flexibility, so if anybody wants to be on a different committee, please bring it up tonight. We're small enough, flexible enough that we can accommodate. Good?
Yeah, I would just add, please don't leave off. It's just when there's a need, like when we were dealing with PR or right now communications. Like website stuff, most of those meetings are, so. It's only when there's a need for that.
And we do appreciate everyone's time on those committees because the fact that we don't need it often, we do. So thank you for that. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Val for the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Aaron. I will start by reviewing the current bills payable. You may notice that the number looks a little bit high, for this month or December of 2024 at $320,000. $158,362 of that is a transfer to our wealth management account. $75,000 of that is the transfer to our distribution and development account. Those transfers were made within 2024 to keep them in the proper fiscal year. We also were able to begin marketing projects, $5,000 for video and $10,000 for swag and other marketing material. We also had an $18,000 bill for our 2023 audit, and that catches us up to date, which is nice to be. Then we had the utilities reimbursement that we see comes in from Versant and Bill at the US for that expense. The other expenses are for our workers' comp, which is a yearly expense that happens just prior to January when it's due. Any questions on the December payments? Yes.
I didn't notice this in the finance committee meeting, but the QP Buddy special services line shows expenses through the end of November. Is there a December bill that we're expecting, or is it just that special services ended?
There's no special service.
Just want to incur the wrath of our auditor again. Thank you.
Anything further on the bills payable? Oh, great. Can I get a motion to approve the,
So moved, December payable.
all in favor? I'm never sure if you call for those votes or if I call for those. Next, just to review our 2024 reconciled year-end budget. This is much as was presented in October when we reconciled, then again in December after the meeting. The variance in the revenue is primarily due to the pass-through account with the utilities reimbursement. We were able to increase our contribution to the wealth management account from $75,000, which is what we had anticipated when we first set the 2024 budget. We increased it, in October, and so that went from 75,000 to $158,062. And then, we also put in an additional $75,000 into a distribution development account. That allows us a little bit of flexibility should we have, needs that we're not foreseeing at this moment. That might be, additional staff for marketing or additional. It's not anticipated at this time. Question. Any questions on the reconciled 2024 budget? Okay. The 2025 proposed budget we presented at the December meeting. We did increase the line item for the utilities reimbursement because we are expecting equipment will get turned on, and so yeah, electricity bills will go up. That's a great thing. We do not have a grant this year for staffing, so of course that revenue is not available. And then we have a line item in there for distribution and development, should we need revenue from that account for any unexpected expenses. This is of note, our revenue is enough to our expenses for the second year running, so that is a great outcome. In the expenses, we have an administrative increase that is, we have our expanded office. As we've got 2 full offices, we've got 2 full employees, and no grant funding, so that creates an increase in the administrative costs. We are continuing strong investment in our marketing position. We also increased our legal services budget because we expect to expand our member services, and that there may be some legal services associated with that expansion. We have suggested a $100,000 payment to the wealth management account for this year. We may be doing an adjustment in October, depending on how revenue and expenses line up at that time. And then we also have a new line item that we are proposing, which is a $5,000 grant or scholarship. We expect that $5,000 will be kind of paid for with interest income on our distribution, development, and operations accounts. So we'll be utilizing that interest income, but it's a good way for us to reach out to the and we're hoping that like proposal to the MWS board that they match it. So that could actually be a great tool for us. Any questions on the proposed budget for FY25? Do we have a proposal for accepting the budget? Or move that we accept the 2025 budget as proposed?
Second.
All in favor? Excellent.
Just say real quick, all in favor of that scholarship.
We have our one-page report for our wealth management account. You can see we've got $1,021,667 invested at the time. 90,176 of that is in cash. $931,490 in bonds. our current, well, not current anymore because this was year end. Our year end performance hit 4.03% as compared to our benchmark of 1.44%. So we well exceeded our benchmark. We could also see the breakdown in how the funds are invested. Our proposal is that we start working on investment strategy this quarter to come back to the board proposal for investment strategy. While we work on that investment strategy and accompanying our for wealth management services, we have $158,000 currently sitting at Amherst Bank that came from the post-school fund. Not the post fund, sorry. We have $158,000 at Amherst Bank that we are proposing to purchase the short-term CD so that it's not just sitting there. Cash.
The 158 being surplus from revenue coming operation. So that original payment was supposed to be 75,000 budget for the Q3, we increased that to 160,000. I was off by $1,600. So we are asking that we're trying to keep those funds over in the bank just to track everything reconcile. So we're asking to invest that into a short-term CD. Discuss everything again. We already have a CD payment structure, but last year's payment was 50,000.
Yes.
So. A short term, assuming that you're on.
I think it's 6 months.
6 months.
So the 50,000 in 6 months, and that will come due at some point, just roll into another 6 months.
We've already rolled 50,000, so they're gonna be very close. And we're sitting on that money in contingency account too. So we probably start our investment under our strategy with that money that what these CDs can't do, we roll in them too. So.
Make a motion that we invest in short-term CD.
All in favor? Back to you, Aaron.
Very happy to hear about the development of investment strategy. We talked about it in the finance committee meeting. Very happy to hear them.
You're trying to turn your not looking at me.
Very happy to hear that we're working on investment strategy. I really am. And we talked about it, about trying to move quickly. We understand balancing between moving quickly and not losing that opportunity cost, but at the same time, moving as quickly as we can. So thank you. Both. Next thing, we're going to jump into executive director reports. But yeah, already. I've been dealing with a cop for about a month now. So if he runs into trouble, I'll jump in and thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm pleased to share our fourth quarter and year-end updates for 2024, which has been a year of significant progress and transformation for MRC. Let me start with our tonnage stats in 24. Our members' total municipal solid waste reached 93,542 tons, showing an increase of 3,341 tons compared to 2023, 90,201 tons. Those numbers, of course, don't include commercial investment. In December, we successfully held our annual MRC meeting at Black Bear Inn in Orno. Despite challenging weather conditions, we had excellent attendance and truly engaging discussion. The enthusiasm in the room was remarkable, and the level of member participation was particularly encouraging. I want to thank all who attended, particularly our guest speakers, for their insightful presentations that sparked a meaningful conversation about our future direction. On the financial front, we've hit several important milestones. I'm particularly proud to report the 2003 audit was completed and accepted at the board, accepted by the board. It's now available on the MRC website for full transparency. While we need to file for a 990 extension due to the MSW acquisition in 2023, I'm pleased to report we successfully submitted that in November. Even better news, in December, we were able to transfer $158,000 to reinvest back into the wealth management account from operational surplus funds, more than doubling our initial expectations. This represents a significant achievement in restoring our investment position and demonstrates our commitment to prudent financial management. It's particularly noteworthy as it represents a full circle moment, returning funds to their proper place after NWS facility transitional period. Annual CPI for 2025, MRC charter members' tipping fee has increased to $87.62 per ton from $85.28 in accordance with section 5.1 of the second amended and restated master waste supply agreement. This change took effect January 1st. Our collaboration with Design Lab last quarter has set the stage for a truly exciting development. We're preparing to unveil a comprehensive rebranding effort that will better showcase MRC's role as a hub waste management solution across our 115 communities. This isn't just about updating our look, it's about strengthening our connections and better communicating our vital role. The new branding will emphasize our commitment to education and advocacy, making our services and values clearer to our stakeholders. You'll be seeing more about this transformation in the coming months, and I believe you'll be impressed by how it captures our mission and our vision for the future. Regarding community engagement, we are continuing to serve a critical resource for our members, and I'm particularly proud of how we've expanded our support services. Beyond waste management, we're actively involved in contract negotiations, equipment consulting, legislative monitoring in Augusta, and strategic planning. Our role has evolved to become a hub for our members for a true partner in sustainable waste management solutions. A recent example is our work with the town of Surrey, where we provided a valuable guidance to their transfer station operation. Their feedback was particularly gratifying as they specifically noted how our insights helped them improve their operational efficiency and planning. I maintained an active presence in the field and recently was accompanied by Kevin Hogan, CFO of Innovative Resource Recovery, visiting member communities and touring transfer stations. Most recent visits were to Brewer, China, Dexter, Camden, and Oakland. And we have an invaluable understanding of our members' needs and challenges firsthand. Face-to-face interactions help us build stronger relationships and better understand how we can support our communities. In November, I had the pleasure of hosting 4 UMaine undergrad students studying ecology and environmental science, along with Dan Dixon, UMaine's Sustainability Director, for the tour of NWS. These students are conducting important research on campus, recycling systems, and attitudes, and their fresh perspective on our operation are encouraging and enlightening. NWS facility updates. We've continued to strengthen our team and infrastructure. We've welcomed 2 valuable additions, COVID Fogg, a UMaine Maritime student studying power generation engineering, and Deborah Zambito, our new controller who brings extensive experience in both traditional and medical waste management. Their diverse backgrounds and fresh perspectives are already enriching our operation. While Gary and Kevin will provide more detail on facility updates, I'm excited to share that we're expecting trucks, loaders, and material handler equipment to be on site in February, with waste processing beginning shortly after that. This equipment acquisition represents another significant step forward. One development I'm particularly passionate about is the upcoming installation of the fire roller system. This cutting-edge technology represents a significant advancement in facility safety, providing 24/7 thermal detection, monitoring of the tipping floor. Fire rollers like having a vigilant guardian watching over the tipping floor 24/7. With the increasing threat of lithium battery fires in our industry, we are proud to say our partner, Innovative Resource Recovery, will be the regional pioneers in implementing this state-of-the-art protection system. This investment demonstrates Innovative's commitment, safety, and risk management, protecting not just the facility, the workers, but also the community. On the legislative front, we've maintained active engagement with key interactions that will shape the industry's future. I attended the Maine Climate Council release of their update 4-year action plan in November, where MRC, along with many other experts, contributed to a task force that provided recommendations for the plan. This involvement ensures our members' interests represented in a state level environmental planning. The Maine Board of Environmental Protection adopted the new EPR packaging material program rules on December 5th, which will help reduce municipal management burdens and improve packaging design and management. These developments represent significant progress in our state's approach to waste management and environmental protection. Tomorrow, I'll be representing MRC on a panel at the Maine Chamber of Commerce focusing on stability solutions. I'll be joining Susan Miller from the DEP and Simon Tripp from Casella Waste Systems to discuss enhancing Maine solid waste infrastructure. This kind of engagement allows us to share our expertise while learning from other industry leaders, which ultimately can benefit our member communities. As we look ahead to 2025, I'm more confident than ever in the direction and the strong foundation we've built. Our partnership with Innovative continues to prove its value through their methodical, thorough approach to facility development. The commitment and research and careful investment continues to validate our confidence in their capabilities. While everyone is eager to see the facility fully operational, we appreciate their approach to doing things rather than rushing to meet deadlines. Finally, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge Karen Canuti, who is retiring from the Maine DEP after 38 years of service. As many of you know, Karen has been an invaluable resource for the MRC and our member municipalities in the matters of permitting and regulating. Her expertise and dedication have truly been exceptional. She's been the go-to person for countless municipalities and the organization across the state. Her depth knowledge and willingness to share has helped shape waste management practices throughout the state. She will be greatly missed, but her legacy will continue to influence our industry for years to come. We wish her the best in her well-deserved retirement. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Good job. Questions for Mike? We're a pretty dry group here. I don't know that we do a great job celebrating, but there we go. I don't think we always do a great job celebrating, but we have to note that we're starting to build up our house again. We spent a lot of money in that facility operational and not getting damaged. And it's really awesome to see that money going back into that. So just want to take a moment to recognize that. And I'm looking at Mike's updates are always comprehensive. And when you start to put on paper what Mike has accomplished, there's really a lot going on. Mike has expressed some concern about some personal issues that he had recently and not spending enough time working for doing the things that he's supposed to be doing, and I hope he realizes, once he gets this on paper, that he, through the entire challenge that he was experiencing, he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. Thank you. Thank you for the efforts by to the MRC. Thanks. And then lastly, I just can't help but give another shout out to Innovative. Really been great. We did a tour with ADA Waste Disposal District, which December, really engaged members that came up with your Waste Disposal District, had a nice conversation for the building, and Gary, we really appreciate that, working with us on that. I know you're trying to get stuff done in the building, and it's disruptive.
It's always great. Always great to have them.
Yeah, that helps with our members. So thank you. Well, and thanks for the continued success. I know we don't deal a lot with wildfires up here. I mean, Canada's dealing with it. New York last year, they got hit really hard with wildfires. I wasn't even thinking of it until you were talking about, protecting the surrounding communities, having that fire over that's important stuff. We do not want to be the next statistic when it comes to wildfires. So thank you for your investment in that.
Going back to Mike, and the meeting that you folks hosted for us from Katie Disposal District, Mike soon there give the intro to the meeting. I don't know where he was.
I was saying, even though he was not working, he was taking care of, some personal stuff, still was there, meeting all the requirements of his position. So
It's thank the board members, please, and the president. Thank you.
right, no other comments, we'll move on. Good. So at this point, we'll turn it over to George for the asset management report.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good, okay. Asset management letter is a separate look at the assets that the MRC manages on behalf of the joint venture, which we've been doing for a number of years. And I think over time, as I mentioned earlier at the Finance Committee, it's gotten first more complicated as the assets multiplied, and then it's gotten a little more simple now that the MRC sold the stake to Innovative in MWS LLC. And so the MRC is more of an oversight and management role rather than directly overseeing collections and tip fees, et cetera. So I think that reflects itself in the balance sheet, which is shown. The other changes are, I think the MRC has tried to simplify the way it manages its finances. So last quarter, finally, after a number of years, the funds in the cash collateral account were moved out and zeroed out, and that account was closed. Those funds were moved to the D&D account at First National Bank. And so that was one of the simplifications. We had previously closed the contingency account and moved funds to a ICS sweep account to get a little more interest on the funds that are sitting there waiting to be deployed. So I think there are going to be there may be other simplifications going forward, but in terms of asset management, the balance sheet's a little easier to read than it was, say, a couple of years ago. So I think, again, not that much to report in here other than the closing of the accounts. I think Val had mentioned the transfers from the operating fund, the 160,000 and the 75,000. And so those are shown on the balance sheet. The non-cash investments in site and facilities include the Hamden site itself. There's a contingent fee receivable as a result of the purchase agreement from the sale of the interest in MWS LLC. And then there is a valuation of the equity in MWS LLC. I should mention those three items in particular. We finally got the 2023 audit finalized. And so the statements in the asset management level reflect and are consistent with the auditor's results for 2023 and their recommendations going forward. If you look, you'll see there are no changes in the value of the contingent fee or in the equity from the end of 23 to the end of 24. We're waiting for the auditor to do their audit of 24 and to provide us guidance and how to reflect that on the balance sheet. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I think the recommendation is to continue consolidation of the cash accounts and to simplify accounting, reduce fees, and maybe earn a little more interest. And the same thing with the investment accounts, which the board has continued to work through. So with that, just happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you, George. Questions from the board? Yeah.
So George, this is not exactly under your purview, but I wondered if there's been any more discussion about putting our audit services out to bid.
There's been discussion, but I don't know what the status of an actual RFP is. I know this is the time between the completion of the most recent audit and the time we need to get the auditor started on the 24 audit. So this would be the time to make that decision, or in the next quarter anyway. That's all I can. That's all I can say on that. I don't know that there's been a specific action. Michael, maybe you're a little past me in terms of where this is.
I can answer that, yes. During Q1, it's not only a lot of financial stuff. We usually put, and I apologize, George, if I would correct this, but we never did our audit in Q1 because of tax time. They've always stated that it's end of Q2 and Q3. So my intention is to start a process or solicitation.
So that's still on the docket.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was just kind of presented in Q2 along with the strategy. Bell and I discussed it. The nice thing is I can see all the auditors out there because they're requesting our audit for their municipality. So I've already started.
I hear that. Thank you.
Other questions for George? Okay, well, thank you, George. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So next we want to talk about the new Maine Paid Family Medical Leave Program. I guess Aaron is going to fill us in on that.
Sure. As many of you may have heard, the state of Maine passed a law that requires all employers in the state to contribute to the paid family medical leave program. It's, ostensibly to provide folks who don't have leave for their work an opportunity to take medical and family leave. But they're requiring everybody to pay into the program and be eligible to participate in the program. So MRC has 2 employees, and the requirement for employers who have 15 or fewer employees is to contribute 0.5%. I think I said 1%, but it's really 0.5% for people that are 15 or less. And employers have the opportunity to make the employees cover that cost or make up that cost for the half. So our decision today as a board is what we'd like to do on behalf of our employees, whether we would like our employees to cover that 0.5%. So the withholdings are effective as of January 1 of this year. We have not taken anything from the employees because we've been waiting for this meeting to make the decision. The cost to MRC, if we were to pick up 0.5%, is less than $1,000 a year. So it's not a significant expense. So
I think just to clarify, 15 and more, the employer is required to cover 0.5%, and they could choose to make the employee pick up 0.5%. 15 and under, they could opt out and require the employee to pick up full 1%.
it's not 1%.
The total is 1%. It could be split half and half.
But I believe the employers 15 and under only contribute 0.5% in total. It's like a small business thing.
I think the total was, I thought the total was still 1%. Even 15 and under, but you could require the employee to pick up full 1% versus the employer being required to pick up 0.5%.
I think either way, it's still a very small
Yeah.
cost for MRC if it were to even pick up.
I would recommend that, MRC pick up the full cost of this program. I'm getting nods, is it 1% for the full cost?
My understanding, check, I think it is 1% with the 0.5%. Depending on what it may not make a difference, depending on it's a pretty honest amount. Or 0.5% or 1%. Saying this was so it's all. I'm not looking. Since that's 100%.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether we can reverse ourselves seniors down to 15 to 40.
Yes.
Okay. I think the way you're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, fun with them.
It's nice to let it go.
So the, I think the only potential like downside from an employee standpoint is that the IRS did finally come out with it. So to the extent that MRC picks up some or all of the costs that they have to employees, that will create a tax implication down the road. Should any of our employees ever decide to use leave from the bank for particular purposes? That's all we say. It's very complicated in our game, and I would guess that the near term and annual benefits of or picking up the cost far outweigh potential tax implications of some possible unforeseen nominal usage. of it. So,
And the longevity.
the longevity of the program. Touche. We're good to go.
So I would support Bill's, because I would second Bill's motion that the MRC cover the entire.
Second that. Absolutely.
That was the one.
Oh, we're not.
Oh, I think it's your, okay.
I do think some more research needs to be done to that, because I was under that umbrella of 15 until I had to count my firefighters who were volunteer. And I believe we were only minimum regular that we have to use the 5%, that's 45. So I think we just need to look into that further. I'll figure it out. We have until April, right, to report it, so.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to cover the entire amount. The required contributions. All in favor? We're excellent. Thank you, Karen. A lot of confusion around that. I'm glad we're going to get it straightened out. So next thing is an MWS update from Innovative. Gary, I'll need it over to you.
We have Kevin on screen.
Hi, Kevin.
Guys. Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there in person. Gary, you gonna kick us off?
Yes, I will. As I just follow on what Mike had relayed to the group, is that we continue to focus on driving towards the goal of having trash be tipped on the floor within the coming months. Some of the details associated with that I'll get into. The first thing is a yellow lion that we have identified and selected is actually at the cat dealership going through some warranty and some repair work before it's shipped to Maine. So the yellow lion has been ID'd and is in the process of being prepped to get it's here on the ground in Maine. As Mike mentioned, we continue to work with Fire Rover. We've got the design completed. We're pressing them. They're going to bring the system up and have it delivered to us in early February with the goal of having it active by the end of February. So we're doing, as it gets delivered, we have to do some infrastructure work associated with that. We're working with our vendors to get that done. In that same note, we continue to work on enhancements to the fire alarm system. And we work with Maine Fire. Not only do we have all of our annual and testing reports have been completed, we actually enhanced the system with some additional infrared cameras for the rest of the facility, it would, not only alert the local fire department, but it would, triple off, any sprinklers. So we have now, thermal cameras and, camera coverage for every area that the material will be stored in, even past the tip floor. So those are, yeah, again, very, very positive. We look forward to showing everybody, having everybody in towards the end of February when the fire over is actually, online. Just a quick note on that, as they, tour here, they've had their engineers here. We stay, very close with the fire, roll team, but, to Aaron's point, their stats are, they, have in their systems that they've installed, they're suppressing 4 to 5 fires a week because of lithium batteries at location. So, the advent of not having this is just, it's something that we wouldn't want to cross that, just roll the dice on. This really gets us in the position that Mike said, you know, really sets us up for world-class fire protection. It sets us up for the next several years. Yes,
Does that also have a really good impact on the insurance?
Was the question about insurance?
Yeah.
It's a fire.
Yeah, the short
Yeah.
answer is yes, it's viewed positively. We haven't been, I can't quantify it for you exactly, but we're out putting in place a policy for, I'll call it active operations right now. And we've been told by our underwriter, it both improves the pricing and makes it easier to place the policy because people don't love covering basically waste handling facilities at the moment.
Yeah, it actually enhances our ability to talk to insurers, and there are very few that really want to touch this if that system is not in place. So yes, to all the above. As Mike alluded to, I'll get into that. We're continuing to really do a lot of recruiting and adding to our staff. We're in the process of hiring additional resources, and those will be boots on the ground in the plant, so that we can train them and prepare for when the trash actually arrives. So we're very active on the recruiting and the hiring. We'll say negative 15 degrees doesn't help my recruiting efforts, but hopefully we get some of this behind us. And then we continue to work with our sponsor. We've identified trucks and trailers. The sponsor is working on getting those assets that they have under their umbrella allocated to Maine, and they'll be moving up here. On that same note, we have to make sure they have things like heater block access and accessories so that we can keep the trucks moving and actually start and run. But really, continue our same focus as Mike had mentioned. Get the plant ready, ensure that we're in a position to not only effectively but safely handle the trash once we pull the trigger. We don't want to be in a position where we bring something in and then figure out that we need to do something different. We're assessing all of those and putting in the right process and procedure to ensure that we handle our material safely and efficiently for the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Just see Kevin come off mute, so I'm thinking you're going to join in now.
No, I was just going to say, look, I think the good news is that, you know, there's not much of an update from the annual meeting other than we still continue to expect to execute on the plan we outlined, you know, I guess a few weeks ago. So we're excited to turn the switch on and get waste moving through the facility.
So are we. Very excited. Any other questions for Gary or Kevin? Aaron first.
I'm excited to hear that you guys are continuing to increase your staffing. And it sounds like you're maybe working on importing staff from out for specialty positions perhaps. I wonder what your timeline is for maybe doing a more general call for employees in the local area, like an ads and papers, and when MRC can assist in that effort by communicating with members that you guys are.
We actually reached out to Mike and started that process. So yes, we're very actively looking through with a focus certainly for, the operator positions to be, from Winneton and for those, individuals. But we reach out to Mike to, help put those seats out, get some of those in. We're, actually getting some former, employees, back into the facility based on some of the outlines that we did at the annual meeting. So, the recruitment's been going on, and we continue that, hiring.
We're excited to hear that. Thank you.
Well,
Go ahead, Bob. And so it's on.
it's on.
Yeah. As you evolve towards this point where you're actually starting stuff in, I'm assuming there'll be a scheduling plan. of some
Yeah,
kind.
it'd be a very stepped process.
Yeah.
Of yes,
Yeah.
a phased approach. We'll
Thank
call
you.
it,
Those
okay?
words.
Yes, we're not just gonna open the doors down.
It's gonna be much like the bridgeways. Gonna be much like the bridgeways. They will let us know how many tons they want. We will dispatch on trucks. Okay. You know, the first thing we're trying to get is the smaller trucks and local areas in there. Then as we grow.
Yeah, some of the towns have committed contracts with haulers.
Yes, yes,
So much advance notice.
absolutely. Right, and as Mike said, we're gonna work that as the phase. So the first thing is gonna be, we'll call it the local, trucks, the route trucks. Right now, we're making their way, to other places. Try to save some of that windshield time, make it an advantage for everybody, and then phase in, all the transfer stations and the over the road trucks that, bring that through. Well,
That's a good question. Anything else? Comments, questions? All right, thank you, Gary and Kevin. I appreciate what we speak.
thank you. And again, thank you for, your support, keeping us going over at the plant because of power changes.
Yeah.
Thanks. You're
Always. We're here.
welcome. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is our upcoming meeting. We do have a regularly scheduled quarterly meeting on April 23rd of 2025 that will be here at the Hamden Council Chambers. Paula, thank you very much for volunteering that. We like the consistency of having the same type of place so that we set up, we know what we're doing. Do every time, so thank you. All right, we do have some panelists or some people attendees. I guess at this point, we would open it up for public comment. Anybody online would like to speak, go ahead and raise your hand. Pretty quiet there. Don't have anybody in the audience who wants to speak. Oh, we have a hand. Here we go. This is Carol Cordy.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. The cost to the 150 towns, does each community pay the same, or is their cost according to the size of the community?
I'm gonna let Mike answer that one.
So the communities pay the same. We have two members that are different status member, and they pay actually $2 more, but all the communities pay the same because the way the contracts read is we pool the volume. So the volume is pooled, so it's all on 115 communities total volume.
So it has to do with the volume. Okay. At this point, does all their waste, is it now going to landfills, or is some of it being recycled and other parts going to the landfill?
So every community is different. So if communities are pulling out recyclables and have a recycling contract, then they're recycling. Their contracts with us is for MSW. And all of our MSW that we have contracted is currently in bypass because we are not taking any of the facility.
So yes, there is recycling happening depending on the community. Sure.
Thank you.
Just, Carol, the tip fees are the same except for two members Mike pointed out, but it's based on net versus gross. Like, no, wait, I'm sorry, I'm going back in the ADD. But you're, it's just the, your town's tonnage times the tip fee, that's what the town's.
Okay.
So
And
it's not-
is the goal to get the facility at Hampton working so that everything goes in there and energy is created from however that mess is being treated by whatever new technology is coming up? Is that the goal?
I can take a stab at that. Yes, the goal is to take in all of the community's waste, pull out recyclables, things like metals, et cetera, that can't be converted into energy, but then convert largely the organic fraction into renewable natural gas that we put back into the pipeline.
Mm-hmm. And as I understand it from the annual meeting, the goal is to get that plant working so it can do it. It can't yet do it, but we hope that it will soon be able to. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we're gonna have to make investments in the facility to allow that process to happen.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions from attendees? Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. All right, I see no other hands raised. So that will close our public comment period. And I will take a motion to go into executive session.
It's gotta read it. It's gotta read the whole thing. I would make a motion that we go into executive session for 1 MRS 4056E to consult with MRC's legal counsel regarding MRC's contractual rights.
Second.
All right,
And are we thinking there's one executive session or there might be two? Just one today?
One executive session.
all in favor of going into executive session? All right, unanimous.
Can you give me the
All right, so we are out of executive session. No votes, no action will be taken as a result of the executive session. I do have another item for other business. Is there any other business that we need to discuss today? Seeing none, I will take a move to adjourn. Second, sounds like we're all in agreement here. Let's go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,